So I will start with this. My name is Maximiliano. I know it's a long name, so I can go by Max. But I will start with, let's say, homework for you. Okay? So I want you to think, while I'm speaking, questions. Because after this, I will have QA sessions, so question and answers, outside in the arena. So please, I want all your questions so we can talk further about PWAs. So let me start really quickly about myself. So I have started doing web development a long time ago, okay, in 1995 with that browser. So in that time, I've been traveling a lot. I'm from Argentina, so I live in Buenos Aires. So I've been traveling a lot around the world doing trainings, conferences, and talks on different topics. I have authored a couple of books. And the last two are mainly on web performance. Okay, that is one of the key parts of a PWA. Okay, we will get there anyway. So also, I've been writing a lot on PWA. If you have ever played with that and you have ever searched some articles, you probably found some of my content. And I've been doing a lot of corporate trainings, okay, on different companies around the world. So, but I'm not here to talk about myself. So let me start a quick story about native versus web. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you have heard about that. Okay, native versus web. In fact, let me ask you a question. How many of you have been creating native apps? Here, let's see. Native apps? OK, like 10%. Websites? OK, that feels like a huge amount of people here. So probably you've been here. So it seems like, at least in this stage, web is winning. But you know that with time, we've seen a lot of articles on the media saying, for example, things like the web is dying. Okay, you shouldn't make websites anymore. The same happened at one point with apps, like apps are dying, okay? But then a few months later, you can see other articles saying, well, you know what? Apps are not really dying, and the web is not really dying, okay? So at this point, we have this idea of a jungle, okay? When you start a new project, you need to create a new project, okay? This looks like a jungle. Okay, so where should I start? Should I go native? Should I do hybrid, like Apache Cordova or PhoneGap? Should I go with now Flutter on Google? So there are usually a lot of questions here in the mobile space. And everything usually looks like walking on a minefield. I'm not sure if you have experience doing that. I don't. But basically, when you walk in a minefield, you don't have a clear path. And you're not sure if that path that you're making is the right one. Okay, so that's the feeling in the mobile app space. So now that's like a quick story on mobile web versus native. Now, a little story about the real world, how it works today. Okay, so when you receive a LinkedIn contact request, you click on that link, accept, and then it goes to a website, and the website says, hey, download my app because it's faster. But when you look at the app, it's 130-something megabytes. How is that faster? Okay, so this is one part. So I mentioned that I've been traveling a lot. So in the past 5 years, I've been to more than 90 different airports. And in that case, do I need to install one native app per airport? Why? And why the website is not actually good enough? And this is something that I have added this morning. So yesterday I flew from London, okay, Ryanair, and that's a picture of my seat, okay. So if I zoom in, you can see that to see the menu, okay, just to order a sandwich, I need to download an app. So think about this. I'm sitting in the airplane. Okay, the plane is about to get out of the airport. I'm in the tarmac, and I need to go and download an app really quickly, because if I want to order something, the menu seems to be there only in an app. And I tried, okay, and of course, there, inside the plane, inside that box, I didn't have enough connection, okay? So I couldn't actually download the app. So it's a big frustration and probably a commercial issue that we have here. Anyway, when I was here last night, I checked the store about the app. So the app is 200 megabytes. So do we need a native app of 200 megabytes just for the sandwich menu? Okay. This is not just with Ryanair, it's happening everywhere, okay? Then at the hotel, in the elevator, I found that particular sign saying, hey, you can download an app and live like a local, okay, here in the city. But again, that app, it's 200 megabytes. And maybe I'm in roaming, okay? So this is just another story, okay, on how it works today. Then if you have ever played with VR, virtual reality apps, or AR, augmented reality apps, you need to also download apps. Okay? Big apps, really big apps. And most of the time, these are just temporary experiences. It's just something that you try, like in a museum or something, and that's all. Okay? And then you end up with a lot of native app installed in your system, okay? That if you have auto updates enabled, please do this. Disable auto updates and wait a week. And you will see how many apps are currently being updated in the background every night. How many gigabytes are being downloaded for apps that you're not even using, okay? So this is just frustrations, okay? We have a lot of frustrations in the market because of this. And we are spending and investing a lot of money doing apps that people are actually not using because it has a distribution problem, and also it's not the best platform for those solutions. And by the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't create native apps. So it depends. So here we have this new term, let's say new for now, PWA, Progressive Web Apps. How many of you have been creating PWAs here? Let's see. OK, we have a couple. OK, how many of you are happy with that? Okay, that's a different question. But it's kind of 50% of the people, which is not bad. So let's see. Let me give you a definition. Okay? It's an innovative new way to create applications for mobile devices. You write apps that look and behave exactly like apps on the phone, but you just put it on an internet server. Okay? Instant distribution, they're easy to update. So basically, I did a trick here. This is not the PWA definition. Okay? This was 12 years ago, and it was Steve Jobs. Okay? In WWDC 07, okay, when he was presenting the first version of the iPhone, he said one last thing. That was how to create apps for the first iPhone. Okay? So, and the only platform available at the time was this, an innovative new way, blah, 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 using HTML, CSS, Ajax, Web 2.0. So it's just basically the same thing, okay? No SDK was required, okay? That was Steve Jobs. But 4 years ago, we coined a new term, okay? PWA, or Progressive Web Apps. But we're still talking about basically the same thing. Maybe different APIs that we have today to actually implement that idea compared with 12 years ago, but it's just the same idea, okay? So it's not new. But now it's kind of different in terms of performance and in terms of user experience and also distribution. So I wrote that article, that cover article on the Net magazine, but I like the idea of the DNA because a PWA is like the current DNA of the web. That's basically the idea. We're still talking about the web, okay? The web, but now it's like an X-Men, okay? It has more powers than before. So the new DNA has more powers. And this is ideal for all those apps that are just consuming web content or web services, like the restaurant menu or the sandwich menu on an airline. This is just JSON data, some PNG files probably, and that's all. So we already have that. That's a browser, okay? Maybe when you think about this, well, the app, the icon has a different experience. Maybe I'm on the plane, I don't have Wi-Fi, I don't have internet. Well, but give me a minute because that's why we are talking about PWAs. We can solve that problem with the web today. So let me start talking about the state of the platform. So how PWAs work right now, because at least 95, 98% of you are not creating PWAs today, according to your hands. So first, every web browser will support your PWA, which is kind of because a PWA is just a website. Okay, but when we are talking about, okay, let's talk about compatibility. I want to see like the full experience compatibility. So let's see that. So on the mobile space, today it works on Android on mostly every browser available. I will show you an experience if you have ever seen that before. It's available on iOS since iOS 11.3, and also on iOS or Geo phones. Those are feature phones, okay, available on some emerging markets that are not even touch, okay? But they also support PWAs. So we should be very careful with social network browsing, so also known as Facebook and Instagram, because when you are clicking on a link there, that link is not rendered in the browser, but inside Facebook. Okay, so be careful with that. So if you are like heavily based on social networks, that might be a problem. So this is the experience on Android. You go to a website, for example, Financial Times. I'm in the browser, so this is just the website for now. So you can see it's just a website. It's Chrome in this case. And at one point, I can install the app using Add to Home Screen, at least on Android. And when I'm doing this is actually creating an APK. For those of you that are mobile developers, this is an Android native package. This is happening in the server, and it's signed by the Google Play Store, so it's installed silently. So it appears in the launcher like any other app, and when I open that, it's a standalone full screen experience. It's already pre-installed. All the files are already on the device. It looks like any other app from Android, from the Play Store. And if I go to Settings, to Apps, you will see that Financial Times appears there like any other native app. You can see like the size, the battery usage, and even if you look, it says install from the Google Play Store, which is not even true. Okay? So that's the experience on Android. On iOS, we have something similar. I'm not sure if you know that PWA. I haven't heard about that before. Tinder. Have you heard about that? No? So Tinder is a PWA. Okay? So you can go to Tinder on iOS, and also you can add it to the home screen. And probably you're thinking, hey, Max, that's just a shortcut to the website. But now if you look at it, it opens in full screen. It has a full screen experience. It's already pre-installed, so it works offline. Of course, it depends on the app. And here you can see it looks like the Tinder app. It has its own standalone experience. So that's on mobile. But this is also happening today on desktop. So I'm not sure if you have ever tried this. So if you're using Chrome as your main browser on Chrome OS, you don't have other option there, Windows 10, Windows 7, or Windows 8, Mac OS, or Linux, you can actually install PWAs. And they will look and behave like native apps on that particular OS. On Edge, it's also coming with the Chromium-based Edge. And also, if you have Windows 10, you can actually go and download apps from the Microsoft Store, and those apps are just PWAs. For example, Twitter is a PWA, twitter.com. And they're using the same code base for the Windows 10 Store for desktop, for Android iOS from the browser, and also for iOS or feature phones and the browser. It's the same code base. So the web app and the app, it's the same. By the way, they also have a native app, okay? But they have something called as Twitter Lite, and Twitter Lite is just the PWA. So this is the experience on desktop. So that's a Chromebook. So you can see I'm in twitter.com in the browser, but I can click on the menu and select Install Twitter Lite. If I do that, okay, I have a dialog to confirm that, you will have now a full screen standalone experience. So you can drag the window, you can resize the window, and of course, in that case, you're going to use your actual knowledge on responsive web design, okay, to cover different viewports. And I can open as many PWAs as you want. Remember that one? Okay, the Flappy Birds. This is Progressive Web Flap, so a PWA version of that game. You can open as many as you want, and the same experience, for example, on Windows 10. I'm here on Windows 10, Trivago, that's a PWA. So I can go to the menu, install Trivago, and then it will be a full screen standalone experience on Windows. So it appears in the Alt tab, so the multitasking. You will see it's also in the Start screen or in the Start menu, like any other app in the system. And by the way, remember, it's installed. So you can use it even without connection. Of course, it's up to the product, in this case Trivago, what they're going to do when there is no connection. Starbucks is another PWA, so you can actually order coffee on some countries, okay, using the PWA app. And the same happens on Windows 7 and 8. I'm not going to show you the same experience. Again, it's just the same. Here you can see on Linux, the same Starbucks PWA, and on Mac OS. Okay? So that's right now working in stable without any flag. You can actually install PWAs or Progressive Web Apps. In fact, today, installation can happen in 81% of your users. That is the current, in terms of web browsing market share, 81% of your users can actually install a PWA. And even the other 19%, we have around 9% that can actually take advantage of some features of the Progressive Web App. In fact, the P in PWA means progressive, and it has to do with progressive enhancement. That's a design pattern that means that we will start with something really simple, and we will add more features based on compatibility. So you can see here that even if we take, for example, only the mobile users, it's 92%. So 92% of mobile users can actually install a PWA from the browser, okay, which is kind of a lot today if you think about that, if you think about distribution and about your investment, if you want to invest in creating a PWA. So these are just a short list of some companies currently publishing PWAs. But I know there are many other big names also doing PWAs as well right now as we speak. And I think that you should too. If you have a website, there is a good chance that you can take advantage of some features of the PWA, so of Progressive Web Apps. So now let's talk a little bit about what's in a PWA. So for those of you that haven't created a PWA yet, so what's a PWA? So we're going to start with a web app, okay? So a web app is not new. I mean, we have been doing web apps for years. So that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, of course, modern, semantic, with accessibility, usability, and also, and this is important, with performance in mind. Previous sessions here in this stage, we're talking about this. So performance is really important. It's a key part of creating a good experience. So that's like the first layer. That's simple to understand, but that's just a website. So we're going to add one layer on top of that. That's known as service workers. How many of you know what a service worker is? Okay, it's like 20%. Okay, so there are still a lot of web developers or designers here in the room not knowing about this new paradigm of the web. So let me start giving you a quick and dirty definition. It's my definition. It's not like a formal definition of service workers. Let's say that service workers are a way to install a web server in users' devices. So our Apache, let's simplify this. We are going to create a clone of that Apache. We're going to write it in JavaScript, and we're going to install that in users' computers or phones. So next time the user is accessing my website, that web server is going to respond client-side directly. Okay? Again, that's not the formal definition, but it's roughly what's going on. So on a typical web environment today, you have the browser, you have the web server with the current files that you are serving, and the network in the middle. With service workers, we are adding a new layer. We are adding a middleware, client side, that will act in the name of the server. So that's why I'm saying it's like a web server client side. Of course, only for our PWA. I'm simplifying this. This is more complex, but that's client side. So then we don't need to go to the network to actually serve the files. We can if we want, but we don't need to. And that also means it will work offline. So if I click on one icon, it will appear immediately because it's being served locally. Okay? So that's service workers. And this technology is currently available on every browser. So this is like the first 2 steps of a PWA. But we have one more. We need distribution. So we are going to we want to distribute this, not just as a website, but also as an app. And here we have different models available. So we have the first model that is probably the most well-known model today is something known as the Web App Manifest. The Web App Manifest is just a JSON file with metadata that we define in our project, that with metadata about our icons, how do we want our app to behave. With that Web App Manifest, for example, in just a couple of weeks, Google Chrome, when you have the Web App Manifest and the service worker, you will see that install little banner, an icon in the Omnibox. The Omnibox is the URL bar. Okay, so because right now that menu install is kind of hidden, so now you will see that directly in the URL bar. Also on Android, for those of you on Android, you probably have seen this before. There is a little mini info bar saying add this website or this app to the home screen. That's because you have a Web App Manifest. Other browsers, such as Samsung Internet Browser, will add a little icon like a home and a plus sign, add to the home. Okay, so it depends on the browser. But it's not the only possible distribution model. For example, for iOS today, we need to specify some specific metadata for iOS, okay, because iOS is not supporting Web App Manifest fully. And finally, and this is brand new in the market, we can create launcher for stores. And this is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about this part, because installation from the browser is cool, but some companies and projects are usually looking for distributing in the store because they think or they believe that users will install from there. But I'm not saying distributing the app in the store, just the launcher. The service worker is the one that's going to install the actual file from your project. And this is currently available officially for the Microsoft Store on Windows 10. We got like some kind of an official Google Play way to do this for Android. It's known as Trusted Web Activities. And if you have questions on that, we can do that in the Q&A session in the arena later. Also for the Kai store or the Jio phone store, this is for the featured phones. Maybe you're thinking, what happens with the App Store? Well, on Apple, we don't have official support for PWAs in the store. However, there are a lot of companies taking the same code base and compiling a hybrid for that case, using probably Cordova or other solutions. So there are a couple of PWAs available in the App Store as well, not with official support, but with some frameworks and libraries. So it's the same code base with a different distribution model. So these are the three layers that we need to create a progressive web app. And in terms of the architecture, it looks like this then. So we have a browser tab or a standalone web app that talks to a service worker that is like a web server installed locally. And that service worker can go to the real web server to actually download and update the files without the user's intervention. And this is pretty cool. We can update the app without the user going to the App Store to actually update any app. And this happens completely silently from a user's point of view. In terms of security, everything is running in the browser umbrella or the web platform umbrella, so we don't have more permissions like a web app or a website, which is kind of cool in these times we are talking a lot about privacy issues, or privacy problems. So we have all the abilities on the web platform, which are not so bad today. For example, in terms of hardware APIs, we can access camera, microphone with user's permission, geolocation, on some platforms, Bluetooth, and many other things that are appearing with time. What about native code? So here, let me split that part in two. You can run native code in terms of performance with WASM or WebAssembly. That's completely working on PWAs. And if you're talking about native APIs, in this case, it's only possible when you are distributing your PWA in the store, not in the browser, because you are under the umbrella of the browser security model. Challenges, we have a lot. I mean, not everything is perfect yet. So the first and probably the biggest challenge is that this is new for users. So we have been talking about this for 4 years, but this is still new. So usually it's how the users will understand what's going on here. that you can install from the browser. What is that? Okay, so that's kind of new. So installation model is new. So we need to add like more effort in marketing or in education for our users to understand what's going on. And Apple support, it's kind of tricky sometimes, and sometimes kind of buggy. So it's a challenge by itself. And then, is this a website? Is this an app? Sometimes it's not clear. So I would like to go back to this idea that I mentioned before. This is ideal for all those apps that are just consuming web content or web services. If your app is just downloading JSON files and images, you can create a PWA. Work fine. You don't need to access more abilities. And now with the store support, you can even replace abandoned native apps in the store with a PWA. You can upload a new version that is just a launcher for your PWA, and you will maintain only one code. So to finish this talk, PWAs will give us the best of both worlds, the web and native. From the web, we will get the ability to work with links. It's easy to deploy. How you deploy a website, just putting the files on the server, even if you want with old-fashioned FTP. Easy to update. We don't need to package, assign. We don't need to wait for approval. We don't need to wait for users to update the app. And we're just using standards. If you like to use serverless, React, Angular, any standards will work. But for native, we're going to take offline access. We want our app to work offline. We want an install experience in the OS. So we want our app to be a first-class app. Push notifications, maybe, that's optional, but it's available. And performance. We want our app to really, really work fast, like a native app. That's the whole idea. So don't frustrate your users. Okay, remember, create a good experience, because that's our goal. Creating good experiences for our users. Remember that, our goal. Okay? So that's all. Remember, now I'm running to the arena stage, so take all your questions there. Okay? Thank you.